Union Minister of State for Fisheries, Animal Husbandry and Dairying, Shri Srihari, Honorable Minister, Government of Telangana, Shri Rajendran, Honorable Member of Parliament, Shri Divya Kumar Gulati, Chairman, CLEFMA of India, Shri Sabyasachi Ghosh, Special Chief Secretary, Government of Andhra Pradesh, Shri Muthu Kumaraswamy, Joint Secretary, Ministry of Fisheries, Dairying and Animal Husbandry, Government of India, Mr. Nisar Mohammed, Mr. Bhandare, my former colleagues in the service, Shri O.P. Chaudhary, Dr. Mahesh, Dr. Khanna, Dr. Gagan Garg, Chief Executive of National Fisheries Development Board, Dr. Behra. I'm sorry, ladies and gentlemen, I know so many of you. If I take everyone's names, probably my 10 minutes would be over. All the dignitaries on and off the dais, ladies and gentlemen. It's my privilege to deliver the thematic address during the inaugural ceremony of the 66th National Symposium of CLEFMA. Further, I am a proud participant in the CLEFMA annual conclave for the last 6 years continuously. And to my good fortune, CLEFMA office bearers have also generally involved me in structuring the National Symposium. The theme of this year's symposium is Animal Agriculture in India, the Way Forward. I think Mr. Bhandare in his opening address and Mr. Gulati have already touched upon certain key elements of how animal agriculture should move forward in India. So I'll not strictly deliver what is called the thematic address, but share certain stray thoughts with all of you, since all of you are very prominent people in the livestock sector and industry and are actually hardcore practitioners, while I am only a theoretician who has just been involved in some policy formulation role for a short period of time. CLEFMA of India. CLEFMA used to have an acronym, but for the last 2 decades, CLEFMA is now a name of an organization which calls itself Association of Livestock Sector. And if you see the profile of CLEFMA on its social media handles and other forums, you find that CLEFMA defines itself as an apex organization representing the entire livestock sector. I was very happy, Mr. Gulati, when you mentioned and you rather emphatically highlighted the unity which you have been able to forge in the sector. I'm very happy to hear that. Why? Just a few years back, I was interacting with a group of industry stalwarts. Many of them you named in your address. You named about 16 or 17 prominent personalities. Many are present in this hall. I interacted with many of them. There was a note of despondency in all of them. Poultry has been going through a tough time over the last few months. It generally goes through a tough time during religious festivals and certain particular periods of time. But such kind of despondency I had never experienced beforehand. Secondly, CLEFMA came up for discussion, and again there was a bit of a disappointment in the tone, and they felt that CLEFMA had not really emerged as an association of the entire livestock sector, and somehow the perception was, I'm not saying this is what the fact is, the perception was, and the perception was amongst the who's and who of the industry, that CLEFMA is still not out of its old identity and is primarily representing certain specific sections of the livestock sector. So now that as a chairman in your opening address, you have mentioned that you have forged this unity and you named 16 or 17 of organizations. And I feel that all these 16 or 17 organizations which you mentioned basically encapsulate the entire livestock sector. Now, if CLEFMA can truly become an association of the livestock sector and become the voice of the livestock sector, and when we use the term livestock, we include aqua and fisheries also, and at least come to consensus on certain key critical issues which cut across the subsectors of the livestock and aqua sector, be it feed, be it health industry, be it farmers, be it hatcheries, etc., etc. You see, when we say that CLEFMA is an association of the livestock industry, let us not shy away from recognizing that the livestock sector still remains fragmented. And the primary producer, be it the poultry farmer, be it the aqua farmer or dairy farmer, is still not feeling inclusive in the part of these discussions and deliberations, and the primary producer still does not have as strong a voice as others have. So this kind of misgiving about the association is something which you need to dispel so that you truly emerge as a voice of the entire livestock sector. I think that would be the first way ahead for CLEFMA, and then CLEFMA can take the animal agriculture in India ahead. You quoted certain very impressive statistics, and I would urge all of you to go through the publication of the Department of Animal Husbandry and Dairying, which is called the Basic Animal Husbandry Statistics. Each year they bring out this publication. It goes through a very rigorous process, and the data it throws up and the figures it throws up are of very high integrity and reliable. You see, the total monetary output of the livestock sector during the last year was something 17.5 lakh crores. Am I right, Dr. Garg? Huh? More than 17 lakh crores. And you add another 3.5 lakh crores of fisheries and aquaculture. So it's a whopping 22 lakh crores. It comprises more than 38% of the total GDP of the agriculture sector. This livestock and fish combined. This is the strength of this sector. And when you were quoting the figures of milk production, 240 million tons. USA is number 2, 102 million tons. All 27 countries of European Union put together 142 million tons or 140 million tons. So look at how dominant we are. Against this background, it is very hard to imagine that we are still being very despondent and saying that there are very critical problems. If there is one overarching problem which the livestock and fisheries sector suffers from, which probably is the bane of several of our sectors in the economy, is our low productivity. And I think under this overarching issue of productivity, we need to address the way forward. Once we address the product, even a marginal increase in productivity would result in manifold increase in the returns and profits to all the players in the value chain. You see, as against the crop sector, the livestock and the aquaculture sector has been registering a consistent growth of 8% plus over the last decade. The CAGR over the last 1 decade has been consistently above 8% compared to the agriculture sector, which has been hovering around 2 to 3%. So this is what the strength of this sector is. And it may not be politically wise to state, but I'm not being a political person can state that. One of the strengths of the livestock and aquaculture sector is low dependence upon subsidies, whereas the agriculture sector is highly dependent upon subsidies. Resultantly, the livestock sector and the fisheries sector has ceased to be a mere livelihood sector. It has generated and encouraged entrepreneurs and enterprise. So we have to encourage all the players in the value chain in the livestock and aqua sector, or let me say animal agriculture sector, to adopt it as a vocation, as a profession of choice, rather than something given to us by generations, and rather than a mere livelihood activity. Now, you would be discussing several issues and challenges which the sector faces now, especially you mentioned the issue of GM crops, how lack of GM, I'm not going into the ideological debate whether there should be GM or not. Let there be an informed debate based on science, based on rationality, rather than sentiments and belief. But it definitely impacts the competitiveness of our products when it comes to global markets. The cost of inputs, the quality of inputs, whether it is seed, whether it is feed, the quality of our genetic stock. There are a whole lot of issues many of these issues you will discuss tomorrow. But there are certain issues which I think I referred to in my address last year also, and recently when I participated in the poultry conclave in Calcutta, there also I mentioned these issues. There are certain hidden challenges which nobody is talking about. Recently, just few days back, I read a news item that there is an acute shortage of availability of buffalo meat in Goa because many abattoirs in Maharashtra and other states have been closed. Why they have been closed is because somehow the people who are manning and operating them are feeling that the environment is not conducive in terms of running those abattoirs. We read somewhere there was a news item that on Independence Day, several local bodies said that on the Independence Day, there should be no sale of eggs and meats. So there is this hidden forces which are creating a bias against livestock products. I mentioned it, and I think I'll again not feel shy to mention it. Honorable Union Minister is here, he would excuse me. We have a Eat Right India campaign being run by the FSSAI. The Eat Right India campaign consciously discourages people from consuming egg and meat. Now, these are very, very subtle kind of forces working, and the real challenge is they are working out of genuine belief. It is not that those people are enemies of the livestock sector or anything. They genuinely, sentimentally, they passionately feel about it. And the propaganda is rather strong. Now, you don't necessarily have to fight these, but you have to educate the people. You were mentioning, Mr. Bhandare was mentioning in terms of the richness of the nutrition and the protein of poultry and other things. Now, these are the things which need to go in the public domain, and that is where organizations and associations like CLEFMOF India have to play a very big role. Again, Mr. Gulati, sorry, I am not here to contradict you or challenge what you said. Now, again, you were mentioning exports. Now, you see the global trade regime is getting disrupted, and it is getting disrupted very fast. You have to recognize it. At the same time, let us recognize that the whole world accepts that India is the biggest consumer market in the world right now. So let us wean ourselves away from our obsession with exports and try to create healthy domestic markets. Unfortunately, we have been so obsessed with export markets, and that obsession has a historical reason behind it. Because we were always short of foreign exchange, the balance of trade was always against our favor. So we encouraged and pushed for exports. That's why we created authorities like MPDA and EPIDA. Now I think we need not create more authorities. Number one, the term authority itself is antithetical to facilitating trade. You don't need an authority. You need a body which encourages you, which promotes and which facilitates. I think today we do not need MPDA or EPIDA. We need MPDA and EPIDA to reinvent themselves into actually becoming a trade and marketing facilitation bodies rather than authorities trying to regulate exports outside. You see, now shrimp industry, we were the biggest shrimp exporter to the United States. The shrimp industry does not have a strategy or an alternative plan or a plan B to handle the situation now. Very soon, the fear is that the US market is going to be captured by the shrimp from Ecuador. Ecuador, in any case, has gone ahead with us. So try to give this product which we are creating to the domestic market, to the domestic consumer. After all, our entire dairy is consumed locally. Our entire dairy is consumed locally. Our entire egg production is being consumed locally. Poultry is hardly traded globally. Your only threat is now to shrimp in terms of exports. So let us not be too obsessed with exports. Let us accept and recognize that we are the biggest market in the world. Lastly, I will not take much time. We are running behind schedule. Apart from this distinct bias towards vegetarianism, there is a lot of misgiving and misinformation about the sector which is floating around based on highly unscientific information, highly unscientific analysis, and with absolute lack of credible data and information. One is our poultry and aqua is getting a very bad name by repeatedly repeatedly blaming the sector for the global challenge of an antimicrobial resistance. Any number of publications, mainstream and otherwise, in this country, scientific journals use very strong language like Indian aqua farms and poultry farms are spawning bugs of AMR. Globally, it is said that India and China probably are the countries to blame for the global crisis of AMR. Data says otherwise. I have been quoting the data. FAO is the only credible source we can rely upon. They say that the global use of antimicrobials in the veterinary sector or in the livestock sector is somewhere between 63,000 tons to 140,000 tons. What kind of range is this? This is the most ridiculous range, and no statistician would ever accept this range. Our own industry, INFA, had done studies. They have done studies over 2 years, and they have come up with the figure that the industry figures that 900 odd tons is what is being consumed by the animal health industry or the animal agriculture in terms of antimicrobials. Or not all the antimicrobials would be unwanted. After, antimicrobials are essential in terms of protecting the health of living beings. The global use of antibiotics by the livestock sector in India would be close to 1% or less than 1%. Scientifically established figure says that 80% of the use of antibiotics in the veterinary sector is in the cattle, and primarily in the cattle which are reared for beef. We don't have beef industry in this country. The combined use of antibiotics in aqua and poultry is close to 10% only 10% globally. So how can we just accept the blame upon ourselves, and our scientists also start accepting this data? Second is greenhouse gas emissions. Another figure that greenhouse gas emissions, because of the huge livestock population we have, so probably we are responsible for these greenhouse gas emissions. So India has to take the burden of now reducing this by putting curb on our livestock sector. Figures again are otherwise. 14.5% of total global gas house emissions are attributed to livestock sector. And even this 14.5% figures includes the emissions from transportation of livestock products to the consumer end. So it is an artificially highlighted figure. I'm not here to challenge these figures or otherwise. All I'm saying is industry collectively, now that all of you are on one forum, on one page, used to collectively educate the public, educate the consumer, let them make their own choice. If a consumer does not want to consume a livestock product, it's his choice, we must respect it. But we must ensure that the choice should be an informed choice based upon reliable and credible data and information. These are the few points I wanted to highlight. I would just close my initial address. I'll again be participating with you tomorrow by stating that one again overarching issue which we need to address is the productivity of the sector. And productivity will be increased if as policy makers, we have two very senior officers also, we have the Honorable Minister also. When we frame policies, when we discuss various schemes and strategies for this sector, we start with saying, you also said it, I also said it, Mr. Bhandare also said it, we produced 240 million tons of milk. Let us say we produce milk worth this much value. One cattle or one buffalo of the farmer gives him this much money. Therefore, it makes good economic sense to adopt dairy farming. Mere absolute numbers would probably not be the right strategy. So in future, when we talk in terms of policy and strategy, rather than talking quantity, we should talk in terms of the value of our livestock produce and value to all the players across the value chain. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. All the best for this.